been listening to old worship songs from the 1990s, and I came across this Stuart Townsend song that captured exactly how I was feeling, and probably how many of us are feeling just at the moment. Confusingly called We Have Sung Our Songs, it should really be called How Long, because it's all about longing for God in the wilderness. How long before you drench the barren land? How long before we see your righteous hand? How long before your name is lifted high? How long before the weeping turns to shouts of joy? It's all about waiting, not so patiently, for God to intervene in a difficult situation. The Jewish people knew all about longing and waiting, whether they were stuck in slavery in Egypt, wandering in the wilderness on their way to the promised land, or living in exile in Babylon. Certainly feels like we've been doing our fair share of waiting this year. How long before the restrictions on normal life will be lifted? How long before we can see and hug our family and friends like before? How long before we can get back to work or go on holiday again? How long before the vaccine will be rolled out? How long? In his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, the Apostle Paul gives some excellent advice for people who are feeling hard-pressed, perplexed, crushed, persecuted by external circumstances, as were many of the early Christians. Do not lose heart, he says. Though outwardly we are wasting away, and that's probably how many of us are feeling, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. And this is the key bit. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. As Christians, we are called to fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, not on our current circumstances, but on our eternal destiny. When I read this, I felt like God was saying that I needed to turn my longing for the end of the pandemic and my immediate, short-term, temporary frustration into a deeper longing for God's eternal kingdom, for a spiritual awakening when people will cry out to God and he will answer our heart's cry, for physical healing and for racial and social justice, when there will be no black and white, no rich and poor, for all are one in Jesus Christ. And I was challenged to start living out this reality in my everyday life. For me, this has meant getting involved in the Leatherhead Community Hub, because I want to be part of bringing hope, renewal, community and a Christian witness to North Leatherhead. It means laying aside my own light and temporary troubles and fixing my eyes on where God is already present and active in the world around me, and then joining in. So to finish with the second half of that Stuart Townsend song. After singing how long for what seems like forever, we get to the final verse where confident hope in God's glorious kingdom finally breaks through, echoing the vision of Christ coming from Isaiah 35. But I know a day is coming when the deaf will hear his voice, when the blind will see their Saviour, and the lame will leap for joy, when the widow finds a husband who will always love his bride, when the orphan finds a father who will never leave her side. This is a glimpse of God's eternal kingdom for which we truly long, where the lame will not simply walk, but will leap and bounce like deer, where the mute will not simply speak, but sing and shout for joy. What we have to look forward to as Christians is far more than simply an end to the pandemic and a resumption of normal life. Let us fix our eyes on God's unseen but glorious and eternal kingdom and start living out this reality in our everyday lives, here on earth as it is in heaven.